Hi, Shield families. Thank you for joining us. We are on week 9 of our Intentional Parenting Online Summit. And I have with me today Jeff A.D. Martin. We're going to talk about leadership in your family. I'm super excited because we took a 3-week break for Christmas and New Year's and the holidays. And I've told you all about what we have planned, but I want to get back to our regularly scheduled program where we're bringing you dynamic speakers from across the world. So Jeff is from Canada, all the way from Canada. He's going to drop some knowledge on our families today, and we want to empower and uplift you. First off, let me tell you a little bit about Jeff. He's a speaker. He has 15 years of experience in law enforcement. He is a youth communication specialist, an author. He's a certified coach and a leadership professional, Harvard certificate recipient, and the curator of a public speaking and student character development program. I want to encourage each of you to check him out after our live today and put your kids in front of the computer. Let them listen to his speeches because he has such a dynamic program where he's motivating and uplifting young people. You ought to see their faces whenever he gets to talking with them. So without further ado, Jeff, will you tell us just a little bit before you get started with your talk about your family makeup?
Absolutely, Precious. This is fabulous. So my family makeup, I've been married to an amazing queen for the last 13 years, and I have 3 sons, 11, 7, and 2. So my household is extremely loud, extremely busy, but I love them to death, and I'm so grateful that I've been blessed to be the father to these 3 young kings.
Awesome. Listen, right now during the pandemic, we can't get away from the noise, can we?
Woo! Tell me about it. There's been a lot of learning taking place over the last 8 to 10 months.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, I'm grateful to have them as loud as they can be, to know that I can be their father, and just really, it helps me to grow as well.
Definitely. We've been doing the same thing in here. So I'm just so glad to share with other families sort of like what's really going on in the backgrounds of our lives while we're doing all this work in our communities. We're still dealing with the hustle and bustle of parenting at home. So I'm bringing someone who can speak from his heart about everything that he's doing today to be the leader in his household. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you share. Take it away.
Oh man, super grateful again, Precious. Thank you so much. This great organization, the great things y'all do in the community is fabulous. So as Precious already said, my name is Jeff A.D. Martin, and I reside in Toronto, just outside of Toronto in Canada. And I'm so happy that I could spread my word and speak life into you today, especially as parents. Because as parents, the leadership within our household really stems from us. And our children are looking, they're watching, they're paying attention. And we have to ensure, as difficult as it can be sometimes, we have to ensure that we are being the example so they can use this as an example as they get older and they start to step into their own greatness. Today, I want to talk to you about legacy. Specifically, my parents. I'm talking to you today about legacy. Because the truth of the matter is, legacy is something that all of us are going to leave behind. Whether you are that billionaire who owns acres and acres of land, or that individual who might be homeless on the street, all of us leave a legacy. The fact that we are here, we are breathing, we're alive, and we live to a certain point in our lives, we leave a legacy on this earth. A friend of mine was like, legacy is kind of overrated. You just kind of live life and do your thing. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I agree with that. Because the truth is, because we are leaving a legacy, whether we want to or not, it is so important that we dictate where that legacy is going. I think it's important that we are in command of that legacy. We can either say that we're going to dictate our legacy, be in command of it, or we can just let life blow us whichever way it wants to go. Yeah, have you ever seen a leaf get dropped into a river? If the river goes left, the leaf goes left. If the river goes right, it goes right. And the leaf doesn't get an opportunity to say which direction it wants to go. That's how some of us are in life. Whatever happens in our environment, we just go along with it. But I think it's so important that we are determined in terms of what direction we want our life to go. Because whether you like it or not, you're leaving a legacy behind. And see, sometimes we allow the legacy of others, we allow what's happened in the past to dictate where we're going, but we all have the ability to change things. Now, if you look at the definition of legacy, it means the definition is something handed down from an ancestor or predecessor from the past. So whether you want to or not, the fact that you are parents, you have children, the fact that you live in a community and there's little ones who are looking up to you, it means that you are leaving a legacy. So it's important. Are we going to be intentional about what we leave behind? Or are we just going to allow life just to blow us whatever direction it wants to? There's a story that says there's a young girl who was helping her mother make the Christmas turkey. And they got it all prepared and seasoned. And just before they put it into the oven, the mother came along with a knife and she cut off the wings of the turkey. And the little girl said, "Mom, why did you do that? Did you do that to make the turkey taste better?" The mom said, She said, "Why did you do that?" She said, "You know, to be honest, I don't know. My mother's been teaching me that since I was a little girl, and it's just something I've been doing." So they put the oven in the turkey, it's cooked. Grandma comes over for dinner now. While they're all at the dinner table, the little girl says, Grandma, I helped Mom make the Christmas turkey, but before it went in the oven, she cut off the wings. I'm just curious, like, she said that you taught her that. Did you do that to make the turkey taste better? Grandma said, She said, "Why did you do that?" Grandma said, "To be honest with you, I don't know. This is what I was taught by my mother before me. And so I taught it to your mother, and she's obviously teaching it to you." So now they all get curious and wonder, why in the world were they cutting off the wings of the turkey? So they decide to call great-grandma. Great-grandma's at a retirement home. They pick up the phone. They say, "Merry Christmas." And the little girl says, "Great-grandma, I'm just curious. I just finished making this turkey with Mom, and Mom cut off the wings. She said that her mother taught her that, and her mother, my grandmother, said that you taught her that. And I'm just curious, why do you cut off the wings of the turkey?" And the great-grandma laughed, and she said, "Because back then, my oven wasn't big enough." So years have passed, generations have passed, and they continue to do the same thing, cutting off the wings of the turkey because great-grandma's oven wasn't big enough. You see, sometimes we take things in our lives and we pass them on even when we don't know why we do it. Some of us hold on to anger and we don't know where it comes from, but sometimes that's coming from Mom or from Dad or Grandpa. And because they did it, we just do it as well. And we have to realize that we have the ability to change things. We don't have to pass on all the things that happen to us to the generation to come. We have the ability to be the change that our children need to see. We have to be intentional with what we do. We have to be intentional with the legacy that we're leaving behind. And the thing about it is that living life sometimes can be tough. We all went through what 2020 looked like with the racial unrest, with COVID-19, with all the mess that took place. And sometimes when you're just trying to be out there and live the best life that you can, be the best version of yourself as you can, you come across people who hate on you. You come across doubters, sometimes even family members who aren't giving you the love that you truly desire. But the truth is, we can't allow somebody else's hatred, somebody else's negativity to dictate our life and our legacy that we're leaving behind for our next generation. See, many years ago, I was in my last year of high school. And I remember saying to myself, man, like, I want to do something amazing in this world. I want to turn it upside down. Like, I want to invent. I want to explore. I want to do something fantastic. But the truth is, I just don't know how to go about doing it. So I decided to go see my school guidance counselor. His name was Mr. M. I remember walking into his office. I sat in front of him in a chair, and he typed away like I wasn't even there. He looked at me, "Jeff, what is it that you need?" I said, "Sir, I'm not sure what I want to do with my life. Do I go to college, university? I'm confused. I know I want to do something great, but I just don't know what I should do or how I should go about doing it. And I'm hoping, sir, that you can help me out. You are a guidance counselor, of course." He kept typing away again, like he didn't even hear a word that I said. Then moments later, he moved from behind his computer and he stared at me. He pulled his glasses down so there's nothing between his eyes and mine. And the next words he said to me, I promise you, they cut me like a knife. Jeff, I don't think you're smart enough. I don't think you're smart enough to go to college. I don't think you're smart enough to go to university. I don't think you're smart enough to achieve it much. Do you remember a time in your life when you were trying to live and be the best version of you, and someone came along and they just threw out negativity, that they hated on the dream that you had for yourself, that they hated on the goal that you had for yourself? Do you remember that person or that time? See, I got to tell you though, even as I left his office, there was a faint voice as I walked out. There was a faint voice that said, Jeff, that's not right. What he said to you, it's not right. And see, I got to tell you, as I went on, that voice, that same faint voice, it started to build this confidence. As I went on, that voice, it started to get stronger. And what it said to me was, Jeff, you can't allow somebody else's negativity to dictate your life. Like everybody else in this world, you too can be destined for greatness. And you see, that's the voice that I listen to. You see, even though Mr. M did not believe in me, I got to tell you something. I absolutely have to thank him, because his words that day, they fueled me. Because of what he said, I went on to graduate from Seneca College, from the University of Guelph, from the University of Guelph Humber, and just this summer, I got a certificate from Harvard University. I got 4 degrees and diplomas hanging on my walls. See, he didn't think I was smart enough to achieve. I'm a 2-time published author. But you see, none of these things would have happened if I allowed my dream killer to stand between me and my dreams, if I allowed this naysayer to stop me from standing in my greatness and building the legacy that I need to build for the generation to come after me. See, I got to tell you something. See, oftentimes when you can step through somebody else's negativity, oftentimes it has little to do with you and more to do with the people who are inspired by you because you didn't give up. It has more to do with the people who are coming after you, your children, your children's children, because you decided that you were going to persevere and not give up. See, the last time I graduated, it was about 6 or 7 years ago. My oldest son, who's 11 now, he was about 3 or 4 years old. My son sat in the crowd with my wife and saw me graduate. He saw me walk across the stage. He saw me hold up my degree. That was so long ago, but even to this day, every single time we drive by that venue, Daddy, look, that's where you graduated from, Daddy. Yeah, absolutely, son. And then he says, because of you, Daddy, I'm going to graduate too. You see, because my son saw me graduate, he now knows he can graduate. You got to understand something. This is a big deal to me. I come from a long line of people who never had the opportunity to graduate. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents never had the opportunity to graduate because I know where I come from, because I know my heritage, because I know my ancestors were enslaved. They never had an opportunity to graduate. But because my son saw me graduate, I have single-handedly changed the trajectory of my bloodline. See, some of you, nothing will ever change unless you say you will be the change in your bloodline. The things that have happened in the past in your family, nothing will ever change. It will continue for generation after generation unless you say it stops here. I break the cycle. See, some of you are coming from broken homes. Some of you are coming from situations where there's drugs and things that were used years and years, and you have the ability to stop it. Your children never need to know the mess that's happened in your past. See, it's not like you're hiding it by any means, but they don't need to be exposed to it the way you might have been exposed to it. You can break the cycle and create the legacy that you want to create for yourself and for your children. See, what it comes down to is you have to ensure that you give your children the tools that they need to be successful. You see, some time ago, a friend of mine said to me, he gave me probably one of the most amazing piece of advice that I've ever got as a parent. And you need to really grasp this one. He said, Jeff, don't give your children what you didn't have. Give your children what you didn't know. See, I need you to catch that one right there. Don't give your children what you didn't have. Give your children what you didn't know. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So growing up, I used to love me some Nike Air Jordans. Like, I was in love with Air Jordans, like especially them Jordan 4s with the mesh and the triangle piece. Like, I used to love me some Air Jordans growing up. But I promise you, we didn't have money like that. So I never owned a pair of Air Jordans. Now, when I got older, you know what I'm saying? I could afford my own Air Jordans. In fact, I can afford Air Jordans for my children as well. But again, don't give your children what you didn't have. Give them what they didn't know, or what you didn't know. And so what I came to learn and understand is that Jordans, as you might know as well, Jordans go up in value. So a couple years ago, Nike decided to re-release those same Jordan 4s. And so I stood in line, myself and my two oldest boys, we stood in line at the Foot Locker. And when we got inside, we bought the last two pairs of Jordan 4s. Now understand this. We didn't buy these shoes to put them on our feet. We didn't buy these shoes to walk around and look all cute and try to get the attention of the ladies. We bought these shoes. Actually, let me correct myself. My sons, my boys, they bought these shoes so they can hold them, allow the value of the shoe to go up, and then sell them at a more expensive price. For the two pair of shoes, we were able to get $100 each on top of each pair. Don't give your children what you didn't have. Give them what you didn't know. Let me give you another quick example. So growing up, I've always wanted to get involved in the stock market, but it just seemed like an old, rich, white guy thing to me, right? It just seemed like it was over my head. But it always interests me. So one day I said to myself, Jeff, you got to change the game and kind of learn this thing. So I bought this book, like Stock Investment for Dummies, right? And I read the book, and I didn't understand the book, but I read it again. And I read it again. And then I started to ask questions with people who were actually in the stock market and investing in the stock market. I started to ask questions. I took a course. So eventually, I started to understand what it means to invest in the stock market. So now as a grown man, I invest in the stock market. It wasn't even that long ago that I fully got the full grasp of understanding of how to do so. But this is the thing. Again, don't give your children what you didn't have. Give them what you didn't know. And what I didn't know was the knowledge of investing. And so I've given that to my children at 11 and 7 years old. My children understand the stock market. They know what a bull market is versus a bear market. They know what a PE ratio is. They know what a dividend is. They understand at a younger age. In fact, a couple years ago, the little money that they were able to collect, the birthday money, the Christmas money from Auntie, and all the different money that they were able to collect, they put it together and they said, Daddy, we want to buy Nike. And I said, Nike what? Nike shoes, Air Jordans, Nike Flight? They said, we want to buy stock in Nike. And so at that time, we bought a stock in Nike, roughly about $70 a stock. The last time I checked, about $140. Don't give your children what you didn't have. Give your children what you didn't know. And so when we're able to create the life for ourselves that we want, whatever that might mean for you, you are able to take the opportunity to use it and transform the life of your children, to make things better for them. And not just your children, your children's children who are probably not even born yet. But it starts with you making the change. You know what I've come to learn over the last while? Sometimes I get into this rabbit hole and I start going online and just Googling, different things that really just, I'm always looking to learn and to grow. And so I started to do some research on apples, right? Just the typical apple. And what I came to find out is the apple was first domesticated, meaning that mankind understood that they could take an apple and plant a seed and create a new apple and start to sell it. Apples were domesticated about 4,000 to 10,000 years ago. Now, this is what I also learned, is that over the last 6 years or so, food scientists, have been able to create about 130 new kinds of apples. Now, what they do is they take two apple trees and they cross-pollinate, and the cross-pollination creates a new apple to be born from that tree. But when you look at an apple seed, human beings cannot create a brand new apple seed. The apple seed comes from DNA. It comes from its own ancestry going back 4,000 to 10,000 years ago. And mankind can use tactics to make the apple bigger. They can make it juicier. They can make it crispier, but they can never change what the seed is. When you see a seed, an apple seed, it looks so unassuming. But if you take that apple seed and plant it into the ground, it creates a tree. It creates hundreds of apples. Those apples create thousands of apples, and so forth. It continues its own legacy. Now, just like these scientists are able to make an apple bigger and crispier and juicier, you have the ability to change your life as well. And this is a great thing. When the apple, that crispy, that brand new apple these scientists create, when they're able to take that seed and plant it into the ground, that new tree is going to give you the exact same apples that they were able to create. And just like you have the chance to manufacture your life in the way that you want it to be, your children will follow suit. See, as the good book says, it says, train a child in which the way he's supposed to go, and when he gets old, he shall not depart from it. And when you have the ability to do the things in your life that you need to do to be the better parent, to go back to school, to let go of that anger, whatever it is within you, you have the ability to change the lives in front of you. I'm going to end with this. I'm going to go back to apples. I got this fascination about apples. This is what I've come to learn. If you have an apple orchard, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of apple trees. Sometimes within this orchard, you're going to have one, maybe two trees that will never give you apples. See, these trees, every year they'll give you beautiful white flowers, they'll give you beautiful green leaves, but they won't produce the apples, the things it was created to produce. There's one of three things that a farmer can do before they cut the tree down. Number one, they can grab a big piece of 2x4 and they can bang it and smash it against the trunk of the tree, not enough to kill it, but enough to wake it up, so to speak. Or number two, they can grab a knife and they can slash it against the trunk of the tree. Again, not enough to kill it, but enough to make the tree aware. Or number three, they can grab a shovel and they can jam it into the ground at the drip line of the tree, almost like cutting off the tips of the roots, almost like cutting off the toes of the tree. Again, not enough to kill it, but enough to wake it up. And what happens is a certain chemical runs through that tree, almost like adrenaline runs into us. And the very next season, what's going to happen? That fruit, the tree bears the most delicious fruit that it's ever bared. See, this is the thing. Within our own lives, sometimes it feels like we've been hit with a 2x4. The problems that we've dealt with in the past, sometimes it feels like we've been stabbed. Sometimes it feels like our toes have been cut off. But you have to understand, just like that tree, you have the ability. The next thing for you to do is to go out there and to bear fruit. Just like that tree. Now, what does bearing fruit mean to you? Bearing fruit sometimes means that you need to go back to school. You're a couple credits short and you need to go back to school. Why? Why do I need that? Because your children are watching you. Bearing fruit, what does that mean? That means that sometimes you got to go out and create that business that's been sitting on your heart, that's been sitting on your mind, that the family around you will be blessed abundantly when you decide to jump in and start that business. Bearing fruit, what does that mean to you? Sometimes bearing fruit means you got to let go of certain things. Sometimes you have to learn to let go of that anger. So you have that grudge you've been holding on to for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years against that family member, and you think you're good. Every time you walk in the room with that person, you think you're good, but your children see it, and they feel your vibe, and they're learning from you. And the same way how you have that anger, your children will have it too. And there's chances are that your mother or your grandmother, they had it as well, and they've passed it on to you. You have the ability to make it stop. What fruit are you bearing? What are you doing in your life to make your life better and the children in front of you better? Or what are you not doing? What do you need to stop doing to make their life better? See, one of the things is, growing up, my parents, my father specifically, he was a great father, still alive, doing his thing, but my father, his literacy level wasn't the greatest. And I said to myself, I want to change that. And so as I grew up and as I started to learn and to grow, again, as I told you earlier, I am now a two-time published author. Now we're talking about legacy. My oldest son, JJ, at 11 years old, sometimes in the middle of the night, it's about 2, 3 in the morning, and I see the light on in his room. And when I walk into his room, he's not sitting there playing video games. He's not sitting there, messing around with girls. He's sitting there and he's reading Harry Potter books or whatever it is that he's reading, but he's sitting there and he's reading. Daddy, I couldn't sleep. I just decided to read a book. This is what I'm talking about, passing on a legacy. The things you do today will affect the generation that's coming tomorrow. And the day that you recognize that it's your legacy and you have the ability to dictate where it goes, that is the day that there's no force in this world that can stop you from being as great as you were put on this earth to be. There'll be no hater. There'll be no doubter. There'll be no naysayer. There'll be no mother, no father, no teacher, no principal, no boss, no manager. There'll be no prime minister. There'll be no president. There'll nobody that can stop you from standing in the greatness that you were intended to stand in. But you have to recognize that your legacy belongs to you. And your children are watching and they're paying attention. What fruit do you need to bear so your children and your children's children can be blessed because of your actions? I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you today. And I'm hoping that something I said to you today really resonated with you to have you change your life and take control of your legacy that's been given to you. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you so much, Precious.
Oh my goodness. As my dad, the preacher, would say, you gave us a right now word.
Oh man, much love, much appreciation. Thank you.
Man, let me tell you, you're right on time with what our thing is for this year, which we are going to go with the theme, Your Destiny is Not Delayed. So a lot of what you said resonates with what our intention is for our youth in 2021. That's the message that we want to share with our youth, and we've started to share this very important message with our parents as well. So I'm looking forward to what that's going to do to empower families everywhere. Your talk, it gives me chills because honestly, you're a great storyteller. The way that you used your symbolism and the descriptive stories, it hits the heart. It hits home. So I really appreciate that. I enjoyed listening to you. So I just want to thank you right now for the time, the energy and effort that you put into preparing for the talk today. We've been at this, planning this a long time ago, and your day is here. And let me tell you, you brought it. And I'm going to put a challenge out there for the rest of our speakers. Can you keep this energy up? We want to go all the way into this jump start of our program on February 6th and bring all this energy. We need it right now anyway, because we're all cooped up at the house, and I prefer to do this anyway. So
absolutely,
your time. So I do want to just ask a few questions on behalf of the listeners. And listeners, if you have further questions that you want to post for Jeff here to answer, feel free to use the comments in order to do that, and we can question while we're here talking today. But you spoke about legacy, and I want to know, for you, what is your family's legacy? What has been passed down from generation to generation in your family?
Precious, I really wish I could tell you that, my legacy in terms of what's been passed down to me has been an abundance of money. I wish I could tell you it's been a bunch of land and, I can retire early. Like, I wish I could tell you that. But the truth is that's not my case. But that's okay. You see, what my parents were able to give me was opportunity.
Yes.
And opportunity is bigger than anything else. My parents were born in Jamaica, and not just Jamaica, but they were born in a very rural area of Jamaica. So they've come from a circumstance where there wasn't a lot of money. And to be
Right.
honest, poverty mindset. And
Mm.
so my parents came to Canada and started a life here. They created a life for myself and for my siblings. And it's the opportunities that are here that I got to be so grateful for, because it's through opportunity that you can really turn somebody who's broken to somebody who's a millionaire. It's opportunity that can change a poverty mindset to a growth mindset, from not wanting to learn to being one of the biggest learners out there. Like, there's so many things you can do based on opportunity, and that's the great thing. We all have opportunity, but what are we doing with that opportunity? Are we using that opportunity to create something for our own life, or are we using it to better the lives of the next generation to come? Opportunity can really change the game, but we need to take advantage of that.
Wow. I love that you're putting into perspective, who's going to benefit from this, right? And there's just such a huge sacrifice as parents. I love to say, because my grandmothers both had 10 children.
Wow.
So because I have my two and I stopped there, I was like, whoa, this is really demanding. And so I love to say that how many ever children you have is how giving that you are. You have to be, right?
You
Because
have to be.
you're giving up everything that you may have wanted for yourself for their benefit. So I really appreciate that we're talking a little bit about the passing on of the torch. So for
Yes.
you, just what do you think the role is that parents should be playing on a regular basis as we think about how we can pass on the torch?
I think it really comes down to trying to be the best version of you, no matter where you are. And again, it doesn't have to do with money. It doesn't have to do with the big job or the fancy car. It's being the best version of who you are, where you are.
Right.
And so it's allowing you to, if you can show up that way in the world, then your children see you. They become a reflection of who you are. And again, I spoke about the fact that, the fact that I've written books. I'm an avid reader, and now my son, he's a crazy avid reader, because he sees it in me. He sees a mirror image of himself. And so as parents who are looking to leave a legacy for their own children that they can be proud of, it's every day, regardless of where you are, regardless of how much you have in the bank account, what kind of life are you living, and how are you showing up every single day?
Right.
I got to say this lastly, is that on my mirror in my washroom, I have a sign that says BIW, and BIW stands for best in world. Because when I walk into that washroom and I see it, it reminds me, what is the best father in the world right now? What is he doing? The best husband in the world, the best speaker in the world, the best author. What are they doing right now? And if I could try to strive to be like that individual, then I know that I'm showing up as the best person that I can be at that moment. And so as parents, if we can do that and we could strive, again, life is tough, but if we can strive to be the best version of us, our children are going to see that. And our children are always paying attention.
Absolutely. What you're talking about reminds me of being an athlete, and the coach would always say, while you're working out, they're sleeping, right?
Yeah.
So you have to put in the work while everybody else is sleeping, right? You're getting stronger. You're building that muscle for whatever it is that you want out of life, which is so important. So for you, tell me, who has been the most influential person in your life?
Well, I definitely have to say both of my parents have been so instrumental in terms of who I've become, and of course you have the outside, people, I've always looked up to the Martin Luther Kings and, a lot of, leaders like that. But again, going back, my parents have been have made such an impact in my life. I give the way I do. I have my own nonprofit because my father, growing up, going to church, he's always just given. He's always come across a box of cookies or something, and he's given it to the kids of the church. And I've taken that and I've amplified it. Again, we're talking about legacy, passing things down. Because I saw what my father did, and I've taken it to another level now and have a nonprofit. And so that's where the impact has come from me, more specifically for my parents.
That's awesome, because guess what? when we're in our mentoring program, I always pose that question to every participant. And it's really interesting that the number one answer remains to be our parents, really, no matter how perfect or imperfect we are as parents. Our children tend to look up to us. So
Yes.
my favorite thing to remind parents is that you are a mentor whether you want to be or not, because you're the first line of communication. And our children are very forgiving, right? In this process of parenting, they're very forgiving. I mean, I think about infants and toddlers, when we mess up, it's like it didn't even happen, right? You're trying to
Right.
tell your child, like, don't do that, right? And you're really letting them know that that is not to be tolerated. And you think you might have, severed their little feelings or whatnot. And I know if you had a son like mine, it was like he was made of steel or something. How hard you tried to redirect him, he was forgiving of the fact that you raised your voice at me or you hurt my
Yes.
feelings, right? And so our children tend to really look up to us and honor us, even at times when we don't deserve it. We just have to be honest about it. But what does that mean for us as parents? It means we have another opportunity to get it right. So don't
Absolutely.
be ahead of it. Do right by your child. Make tomorrow a better day. And this parenting thing, let me tell you, is tough right now. We're all under pressure, right? Like real pressure. We are just in the crock pot cooking right now.
Absolutely.
Because it's a slow process too. So
Yes.
we have to be careful of like how we're using our time, make sure we spend it well. So I think this talk will really help us connect with how we can build our children up as we think about our legacy and what we're building in our families, which is really important. I want to just ask you if there's anything else that you want to share with those who are listening to us today. And after you're finished, I want to share just my takeaways because this was such a powerful talk. I just want to share with our family sort of a rundown of what you have dropped. This wisdom you just dropped on us today.
Oh man, thank you, Precious. Absolutely. So I just want to touch on what you just said. You were talking about the fact that we as parents were there and our children are so forgiving. And one of the things I want to add to that is that, for me, again, my oldest son is 11 years old. And every time he has a birthday, I sit down with him and I say, I got to tell you that this is the first time I'm parenting an 11-year-old. The next one will be 12. This is the first time I'm parenting a 12-year-old. And so I've never done this before. And so I'm learning. And so I might make mistakes. There might be times that, Daddy might be upset and, I shouldn't be taking that out on you. And sometimes it might happen. I just want to let you know that, so I'm human. And so sometimes these things are going to happen. And I share that with him because I want him to know that Daddy is human. And that sounds kind of funny, but our children oftentimes look at us as Superman or Superwoman. They look at us as we're invincible. And there's times that I break down. There's times I have a hard time. There's times that I have a headache. There's times that we're going to struggle through life. And if we can show our children, again, the best version of us, however, let them know that, Daddy is human. Like Daddy sometimes falls down. Daddy sometimes makes mistakes. If we can show them that piece, and at least they know that life is about learning. Life is about growing. And sometimes you're going to have those failures, but it's about getting back up. Because even though Daddy falls down sometimes, I always continue to get back up. And so it's important to show our children that vulnerable side, to let them know that we do mess up sometimes, but we don't give up. And that's the key piece. Do not give up.
Awesome. Absolutely. So I don't know how this is going to go. Let's see. Is it facing the right way?
I can read that. Yeah, legacy.
All right. That's some notes from the talk today.
Dream Killers, Destiny, Achievement. Ooh, love it. Love that.
Around. So you moved from legacy to destiny to achievement. And I love that you talked about the dream killers in our lives, right? And we just have to watch out for the people who are in our lives that don't motivate and push us. I'm a visual learner, so I had to write it down. I had to visualize it. And I'll have to be like you and post this somewhere just as a constant reminder of what we need to be doing with our young people. And I want to raise one of the comments that we have right now on Facebook. Nicola Smith is encouraging us to teach our children resiliency. They have to see us be resilient. And I believe your entire talk demonstrated that. So I just want to thank you again for taking some time out with us today here at Shield Mentor Program. I have a special commercial for our viewers, so if you'll just hang tight for a minute, we have a commercial for our upcoming Shield online community for you.
You've invested tons of time into your child, but you don't have to do it alone. Does your 4th through 12th grade child need an outlet to focus on how to reach their highest potential in school, in life, and beyond? Here at the Shield Mentor Program, our college and professional mentors are waiting to serve you through our Shield online community, a place for parents and youth with the same interests to connect in a fun and safe virtual environment. From helpful parenting information to social and emotional support for your child and everything in between, join us to connect with others who live near and far in a much-needed space to get the help your child needs for their future success through our mentorship and leadership programs. It's never been easier for you to connect your child with the resources they need. Join us today at www.shieldmentor.org to connect with like-minded parents looking to see their child succeed.
All right, so you heard it here first. We are going online for our Shield Saturday Leadership Academy. We're super excited. Again, our theme is that your destiny is not delayed. And we want you to go ahead and take advantage of our promotion right now. For the first 45 to join us, we have a discount of $160. That leaves you only $15 to pay. But here's the thing, we're not turning away families, period. All right, so I want you to get online, go ahead and apply. We're up to about 12 applications right now, so you want to get in line so that you can get all this good energy for your child. We have volunteers waiting to serve you and your family. Again, you know how I like to close out. Parents, always remember that you are your child's best advocate. All right, you guys make today a great day.